C2 rower.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a buy-in each round with the assault bike and C2 rower. The men will bike and row 20, the women will bike and row 15. They'll do that kind of rotational flip-flop as we saw last night in the Coliseum. Then we'll move to a handstand lock course. I say it's kind of a baby bob push. It's a little bit smaller than it used to be. Walk back, 3 rounds for time, event 1. Move into event number 8, where we'll have a big bob pull for time, a sprint with the bob. It's not going to feel very good after all that work they do beforehand.
So the team's on the starting line getting ready to go. Here's what it looks like in heat number 1, Hustle Hard CrossFit, but a lot of international flags up there here in heat number 1. Underway, and we're going to start it off. The males will row, the females will be on the assault bike to start things off.
And you're looking right off the bat at Hustle Hard, and what you're thinking about time-wise of what is appropriate for 3 rounds is something about a minute per exercise. That's not going to take too much out of you, yet it's going to make you push enough for 3 rounds. And what's going to happen in round 1, the men will row 20 cals while the women will bike 15, but then they'll switch and they'll flip-flop where the guys will bike and then the women will row 15. Once they both complete each side, they'll move into the walks, the push, and the walks. I said before, a decent pace for both bike and row at these numbers is about 1 minute. It's not terribly difficult. It's not terribly easy as well when you think about 4 rounds or 3 rounds worth of works.
Getting ready to the 3rd round, the only place you can play maybe into a potential strength if you're a better rower or better on the assault bike. Of course, I don't count how good you are on the assault bike. It's the better you are, the worse it is.
So they finish round 1, and then round 2, they'll flip-flop on the row and the bike. So it's going to be quick, right about that minute mark, as I said. On the next round coming up, they're going to flip, bike, and row.
See the obstacles make their team debut in the games. We saw them at regionals, though. A little bit different in regionals. You went from a ramp onto the stairs. You'll go all ramp or all stairs here at the games.
What's also different is the distance at which you approach each part of this handstand walk. So as you can see, we have the ramp to ramp on the left side that's much closer to the starting point. The halfway point is a hand has to touch the mat with your affiliate name on it. The other one is stairs to stairs that's further away. So it's quite a different, it's not only a different setup, but a different challenge on each side.
No, we're up there for Hustle Hard CrossFit. Hustle Hard out of Riviera Beach, Florida. They were 5th in the Atlantic, the final team to get in and qualify from the Atlantic Regional.
I think if anybody remembers this handstand walk course at the regional level, it was a combination of the two. You know, just looking at this, I feel like that's a poorly positioned place for the bob for these athletes, although, you know, make sure you walk straight. If you walk to the side, you're going to crash into it. But we had the combination of the ramp and stair. If you ask anybody, the stairs proved to be much more challenging than the ramps did. So having a ramp to ramp is kind of the easier side, in my opinion.
That's CrossFit Vondelgem, who got out first on the bob. They'll pitch it 44 feet up in lane number 3, top of your screen. That's CrossFit Invictus. So you have Vondelgem in first, followed by Invictus, the first 2 teams to push the bob forward 44 feet. Now they will make their way back. Let the handstand walk back before they can get back on the rowers and the assault bikes. Here's CrossFit Invictus out of San Diego, California. One of 3 teams under that Invictus banner. Came into the day 36. Don't have the updated standings yet following earlier today the triplets, but coming into day 3 they were 36th.
I'll say there's one thing I do like about how they structured this event with the handstand walk portion is that they did make one side more difficult than the other. I said earlier, is most people had trouble with the steps. So you usually want to put your most confident person on the handstand walks over on the step side than you do the ramp side, especially on the return trip.
Watching these steps here, giving them a little bit of trouble. That's CrossFit Vondelgem again. They were one of the first teams, them and Invictus, to get onto the big bob, then turn around. Here's a look at Invictus. Down the ramp, carrying the momentum. No rep. His momentum fell forward and couldn't get his hands across the line.
And that's kind of the hard part with the ramp, is that the upward side of the ramp might be the easiest of the 4 positions. If you think up the stairs, down the stairs, or up the ramp and down the ramp. Down the ramp is tricky because you spent all this time pushing your feet over your head to try to go up the ramp. if you keep that on the way down, you're going to lose control and come down too fast.
Here's CrossFit Douala. They are back on the bikes and the rower.
And this is the second round. So the original round, we had the men sitting on the rower for 20 cals, the women on the bike for 15. In round 2, the women will move to the rower, and then the men will be on the bike. Women will still be rowing 15, men 20. The third round, however, there'll be mixed pairs. So you'll have guy-girl on the rower and guy-girl on the bike.
Right now, the only team back to the bike in a concept to a rower. By the way, no minimum work requirement here. This is a very high-skilled gymnastics movement within the event to get over the obstacles. First time we've seen the obstacles in the games. They made their debut at the Invitational on those slalom. The O course they made with the road plates. And then, of course, these obstacles came into play at the regionals.
Now, we do see some athletes struggling on the handstand walks. And I think the question's begged is like, well, how did you get here to begin with? Well, if you remember, not all teams were really good at that event, and you actually didn't have to finish the event to get to the games because so many teams had trouble with it. Now, you might have had athletes that didn't have to get through it at regionals because this is at the end of an event. This is smack dab in the middle. So if you were that one person they put last because you couldn't do it, you're going to get exposed here at the games.
So we've seen Douala, Vondelgem, and Invictus back, and here is Douala and Lane at number 9. They were the first team to get back on the rowers and the bikes. They'll be back on the handstand obstacles. A fun team that dealt with a lot of adversity in the offseason, just missing the games a season ago, but a 4-person team really brought them together. I had the pleasure of talking with them a little bit at the Atlantic Regional. A very, very tight team that's been through a lot.
And what a way to start things off. The ladies went first and went unbroken from one end to the other. You know, on Douala, you have Corrine Francis and Katie Casey. Casey, a former gymnast. Francis, a former swimmer. You know, she just got, there's good, I'll say good body awareness and control.
Little stop at the mat there. A good break. Good decision. Looks like that's Mitch Sweat. Taking his time, no rush. And he'll finish the straightaway. Then they'll be back on the bomb for another 44-foot push. 12-minute time cap, over halfway through nearing the 7-minute mark, and that is Douala, who has opened up a nice lead.
I mean, this is a drastic looking bob, differently from what we've seen in years past. You know, a little bit more narrow, the handles, that's what we saw. Just the size of it has changed. So, you know, big bob, we can just call him Bob, I guess. You know, he's not really big anymore.
I'd be eager to see what the athletes have to say about pushing Bob on the turf compared to the grass back at the tennis stadium. Would think it would be a little less friction. Not that that really makes it that much easier, but you remember on the grass of the soccer stadium in Carson, they would really try to get the skids up off the ground as much as they could to reduce the friction. Here's what it looks like. Empty at 667 pounds, 8 feet, 4 feet high. There is the width, 7.5. They'll still try to lift the skid. You still want to reduce the friction. That's CrossFit Invictus currently in second place. So Douala and Invictus. He's Tamaki, who got the event win earlier today. Well, we talked about handstand walks before when we used to do them for max length, unbroken, or just total length, or for time. It's a little bit more challenging because, and I'll let you expand on this, being on the seminar staff, but short, choppy steps usually in a straightaway, but it's forcing you to pick those hands up now.
The steps in particular, like I said before, that is the most challenging portion of the obstacle course and handstand walk that we have today. And to your point, it is the stair step. Even on the ramp, you don't really have to lift your hand too much to move the hand forward. Here, it's not only lifting your hand, but it's placing it at a more elevated position, pressing up. That requires a lot more balance and strength as well. And what you'll see some athletes do is that they'll spend so much time trying to balance while they're stepping is that they just end up getting fatigued. Really, you want to actually move through these steps as quickly as you can, just as you would on the ramp. or even a flat surface. It's the balancing that ends up killing these athletes when they're trying to hold a position rather than move through it.
Good view there of just the muscles at work trying to get that shoulder stability. A little bit more straightforward on the way down. Really try to rotate those hands around as they make it across the line.
Yeah, you still got to get across the line.
There you go, both bombs on the white, and Ace Tabaki with an event win earlier today on the way to the bomb. And you see there in lane 8 is CrossFit Vandal Gym at the bottom of your screen. Vandal Gym now across the line. There goes Tabaki in those maroon shorts. There comes Vandal Gym out of Amsterdam in the Netherlands, second in the Europe. They had a couple of team members compete in 2015 on the Dutch team that finished 24th. But Dwala Invictus and Hustle Hard still your top 3. And Dwala now onto the mixed pairs in round 3.
It's kind of one of those is a rock, paper, scissors on who has to take the assault bite for the second time for those pairs.
It's when you immediately speak up and go, I'm a pretty good rower. Let me
Listen, I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm much taller than you are, so clearly I should be on the rower.
3 rookie members from Dwala. Green Francis is a 2-time games team vet. The other 3, Griffin, Mitchell, and Katie, all rookie members here at Madison, as they are going to go back to the handstands. They've got a little over a minute to finish this thing up. And regardless, there's going to be a 2-minute reset. Kind of like the run, the swim and the run that triples earlier today, Chase. You may as well finish because you're going to have to push Bob all the way down the field regardless.
It says exactly, because after event 7, which is what we're currently doing, we have a 2-minute break and we move into a big Bob basically sprint. But the problem is it needs to be on the other side of the field in order for you to start. So what's the biggest disadvantage is that, like you said, you have to put the Bob to the starting position. So if you're only through 1 round, well, guess what you get to do for 2 minutes? Pretty much the event you're about to do, and then turn around and do it again for time.
25 seconds left. It's Dwala Invictus and a Hustle Hard CrossFit. Those are your top 3 with 20 seconds remaining, and that's what it's going to look like when we turn things around. Well, it looks a lot further when you're on this end. It's going to be 132 feet. 5 seconds remaining. And so Dwala's going to say, hey, or Hustle Hard's going to say, hey, we're not going to finish the handstand portion. Let's just go ahead and get started on this last 44.
It's like if you know you're not going to finish, just, take your L and get down there and get that Bob into position as fast as you can, because 2 minutes is going to go by fast. If you've ever done just like an interval workout in your gym for multiple rounds, like, oh, 2 minutes, this feels great. And then by round 3, you're like, who cut the time down to 30 seconds? Fatigue has a innate ability to speed up your rest clock more than you'd want to.
Always trying to tell the athletes at the gym that it's the CrossFit clock. It slows down during the work period. It speeds up during the rest time.
It's like AMRAPs that are 20 minutes long feel like an hour and a half. Rest period that are 2 minutes long feels like 10 seconds.
Here we go, event 8. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I don't know if there is a pun intended there, but that is exactly all that we are going to do. We're going to take Big Bob. We're going to push him straight forward for 132 feet for time. We saw something similar last year where it was a pull down and a pushback. It wasn't the length at which they're going to have to do it. But this is one of those, we went super long this morning with the swim, paddle swim, and then run. This is just pure, unadulterated power and intensity.
132 feet on this artificial turf. It's not like the grass again that we saw in Carson a couple of years ago. I think we're going to see some blistering times. It's a 2-minute time cap. I would be floored of anyone. I'm looking at maybe 30 seconds for a good.
Yeah, it's not going to be necessary. Less. I think, it's funny is we had the longest event for the teams. This will be the shortest. This one will hurt more than the 30-minute one did earlier this morning.
Let's go, baby. Let's go, son.
And they're off. Looks like Hustle Hard nosing just ahead there in lane number 5. Lane number 4 looks like CrossFit Butcher's Lab, and Tamaki Butcher's Lab has 44 feet to go. Getting a challenge from PBM up in lane 2, high part of your screen. Butcher's Lab and PBM, they've got to get across the finish line. This is where you get the jelly legs. And it's going to be PBM by half a second over Butcher's Lab. Here comes Tamaki in.
Oh,
Hustle Hard is going to be 4th in the heat. Invictus Dwala Vandal Jim.
I don't mean to be laughing.
That's okay.
That's so great. That's exactly how we thought it was going to go.
It's like 4 people that just got done with the Prowler, except now you're on the Big Bob together.
Just look at that. Like, where's the lone gunman that we haven't seen that took all these athletes out?
Well, I said about 30 seconds would be a good time. 32.72 for CrossFit PBM as they just edge out. Actually, 32.72, and Butcher's Lab right behind him at 33.10. So PBM, the early time to beat through 1 heat here in event number 8. In event 7, it was Dwala that got a cap +1. So Dwala cap +1, the time for the handstand bob, and then on the sprint, it's going to be PBM with a time of 32.72. Galileo gingerly making their way off the floor out of Toulouse, France. Now they have to very slowly go back. Here is your results for event 8, the sprint, and it's going to be fun watching the next 3 heats on this one. They're going to be really tight. We see anywhere from 32 seconds all the way up to Norte with Dondola 51.66, but around 30 seconds. We're going to see some sub-30s, I think.
Oh, yeah, we're going to see some fast times in some of these later heats because we got some, we've seeded enough events. We've put the big dogs in the big heats, so that time is going to drop dramatically as we move from 1 to 4.
Heat 1 down, 3 more to go for the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. Back in the North Park Stadium at the Alliant Energy Center for team events 7 and 8, the handstand bob and bob spread. I'm Jeff Brightwell alongside Chase Ingram. We'll be joined later on by Amanda Krenz. Going to be two events separated by a 2-minute reset. So let's talk about event number 7, the Bob Handstand Bob.
So each one will start with a cow row or a cow bike. The first round, the men will be on the rower, the women will be on the bike. Then they'll switch for round 2, and then they'll split for round number 3. On the second half, we have the handstand walk, new little twist of what we've seen from regional, to a big bob push, and then back there to finish the round.
There it is, the bobsled. They'll be pushing both in this event and in event 8 that happens 2 minutes after. It's how they line up. Again, this is heat 2 of 3. Still a lot of international flags. Cadillo CrossFit. Second Argentinian team, other than Big Friends, to make it. They are in lane number 5. Where we are underway in round number 1. The male pair will row. The female pair will assault bike here in the first round.
That's it in heat number 1, is that you're looking for this to take about 60 seconds across the board. Get 20 cows in 60 seconds. It's not that difficult to do. On the bike, it is a little bit more challenging. So you got to think is that your bike is going to require a little bit more effort than the row will. But hopefully you've spent some time back in the warm-up area perfecting the pace, and that could be dictated off your athletes who aren't as good, especially on the assault bike, since it will take longer. So if you think about your slowest person on the bike, hey, it's going to take me 1 minute and 15 seconds. Okay, well, that means I'm not going to row hard, so I can relax for the handstand walk. Vice versa when you get to the other round. So your pace should be dictated by your slowest athlete.
CrossFit Kilo, you see them from above, the row and the bike, and the 20 cows are done. They're out of Cedar Falls, Iowa. 5th in the Central. They are out of the North Central region. They were 50th worldwide in the Open. 5th appearance. Their best finish in 2013 where they finished 6th. And here's where this event goes between Fabrican on the left and Kilo in the center is going to be all these handstand obstacles. And a good move, I think, by Dave Castro, the director of the CrossFit Games, and even he said they had become so good at handstand walks. Let's see how they can adapt to moving through a slalom in the Invitational onto these obstacles, which we saw debut at regionals.
I do. I like it. And what we say is we're not only trying to improve our fitness level, but you can improve it by improving your skill level or your strength or your endurance. And the combination of all those is what we test here at the CrossFit Games, which is fitness. The other part is that handstand walk challenge, a constantly moving target for you to kind of nail what type of fitness level you think you should be at. The thing you have at regionals in the games is that it's always changing. That bar is always getting raised.
Kilo and Fabrican were about even, and the females for Fabrican forgot they're going to have to do the handstands back to the bikes and the rower.
Tell you what, that's not a great feeling to have. You're like, oh, thank God we got through that first. Oh, we have to do it again? You just doubled the amount of handstand walks we thought we had to do.
Over the steps, we saw these obstacles mixed at regionals, where you either went up the stairs and down the ramp or up the ramp and down the stairs. Here at the games, you're going to switch back and forth, but it's going to be all stairs or all ramp.
And I like the way they kind of separated this. It does change the implement that they had at regionals. It also does challenge athletes in a different way. Stairs to stairs is the much more challenging part of the handstand walk than it is ramp to ramp. And what that allows you guys to do is to put your weaker handstand walk athletes on the ramp, then forcing them to just get stuck on the stairs.
The breaking you saw had that ninth place finish 3 years ago in 2015, and their games debut. They were 20th a season ago. They'll be back on the rower and the salt bike along with CrossFit Kilo. Fabrican at the bottom of your screen, just off to the right now, that's CrossFit Kilo. They've maintained first and second the entire time here in heat number 2. Handstand Bob. This is event number 7. We're going to have event number 8 following. You can hear those fans blowing.
Our leaders, you can see them back where they started on the concept.
It's a good time to be a judge down there. You catch the breeze from the assault bikes and the rowers.
Who do we have joining them over there, Dylan?
CrossFit 1-2-1 hanging in there with Kilo and Fabrican as well.
So as they switch sides, you know, in round 1, the men were on the rowers, the women were on the bike. Round number 2, foot to that. So the women will be on the rower, the men on the bike. And again, you're looking about that 60-second to a minute 15 range.
This CrossFit Kilo immediately up into the handstands. And again, it was Kilo and Fabrican who were neck and neck pushing the bob the first time. To the youngest team in the games, just 24 years old average. And it's amazing, we've got a couple of teams that are near total masters teams. So you can see the age discrepancy. Fitness knows no age. Here's Kilo. It feels like it knows me, though.
Yeah,
very well.
He's got my number pretty good.
Kilo's got three of their athletes across. Fabrican off to the right. Kilo in those pink tops. And here's Fabrican now off to the right.
One thing that can't be overstated is the challenge of the stairs on the way out, on how far you have to walk before you get to the obstacle. It's easier on the way back, but on the way out, it's much harder.
And Kilo started to separate now. Kilo and Fabrican got bob across that first section of 44 at the exact same time. That second set of handstand walks on the obstacles really separated Kilo from Fabrican as Kilo runs back toward the right, and then they'll have to maneuver the obstacle course again.
I mean, fitness, conditioning, work capacity aside, this is the event here in the middle. If you can't do this, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sit there and stare at an obstacle for the next 12 minutes. But if you can have a massive impact on the success of your team.
Great job by the men of Kilo. I believe that was Daniel Stutzman who didn't get it, and immediately, instead of trying to do it again, just switched off and let the other male for him, Colton Mertens, take a chance at it.
Well, the other thing is that you don't necessarily have to wait for your teammate to get across before you start. And what I want to see is, as we get to these later heats, and hopefully they're more proficient on the walk. Kilo's not bad. It's not an easy implement to use. But I want to see the teams that just kind of follow each other all the way through, up and down, and never stop. That's where you're going to really beat other teams. Starting
round 3. Just a little over halfway into the time cap. Again, Dwala had a cap +1 as the time to beat. So Kilo well ahead now of Fabrican. Fabrican still has 2 athletes yet to get back across as you take a look at Superhero CrossFit here. 4th place, they are fraternity in the regionals and the open, but they come out of Superhero CrossFit in New York. Their members, all top 66 coming out of the Northeast region when they qualified for the East Regional. All regional vets now here at the games. They did make the games back in 2015. Right now, just getting some clarification. Nicholas Flannery taking a look back, making sure that hand needed to be. You don't have to go unbroken through the 44 feet. You can break again at your nameplate.
Well, I think the question they were asking was, can they switch their athletes? Because you can switch them before you start. But I think once you've committed at least to the halfway point, you do have to stay in that order. And I think the question was, if he can't make it, can the athlete behind him just switch in for him really quickly?
12-minute time cap. Again, everyone capped out in heat number 1. So if you finish, you're going to have the overall lead with 2 heats remaining. Nice and solid across the line. That's Kilo again in the pink tops and the white bottoms. Middle of your screen. Nice save. Left arm went a little bit soft and able to press out. We saw some great saves from individuals and teams at regionals.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a great one right there.
And we talk about the difference between this handstand walk and the one at regionals. The one at regionals was the combination of the two, where you had to walk the ramp and down the stairs, up the stairs and down the ramp. Now you can pick your poison and which one you prefer to do.
Now here comes the huge bonus. If you finish this and you finish in well under the cap, which Kilo is going to do, and they're going to have the new time to beat with 2 heats remaining. You have a 2-minute reset. So first of all, they don't have to push Bob during the reset. And they've earned themselves about an extra 2 minutes, 3 minutes and 20 seconds of rest time.
I was kind of getting curious about how all four of them were pushing. You had three that had their shoulders underneath the bar, but their last athlete had her hands behind it. And I was kind of curious to see why that was the approach they were taking, but it was until she crossed the line, I believe that was Megan Lehman, is that if you're stuck underneath, she had the timing chip.
Right.
So if you're stuck underneath, it's going to take a little bit longer for you to get out and around. Since she was holding on the outside, she was able to release immediately and then cross the time. If I was this team in the Big Bob push in event 8, I would put her or whoever's holding the timing chip in front in that pressed position and just let them run to the finish line from the front.
Here's Fabrica. They'll be the second team to finish, so they'll be second overall through 2 heats. They'll also earn themselves a little bit of extra rest time. They'll have a little over 4 minutes to recover, as they're in at 9:45. They were even with Kilo through the first round, but then Kilo pulled away.
I have a feeling that wasn't the best words to come out of her mouth at the end of that.
So 2 teams have completed it. 1-2-1, still 6 reps behind, so they've got to get off of the handstand obstacles and get on to Bob and get it across the line. Oh, nice press.
Amino saw that, but he actually put his forearm into the step to save that. And actually, it's a very savvy move, because if you can put your hand or your palm of your hand on the step and that forearm braced against the one behind it, it actually makes balancing a little bit easier.
Superhero move by Superhero CrossFit there to save the walk. Codigo CrossFit, though, has started to move up.
This is what I was talking about. So watch his right hand take the step, loses his balance, and he digs his forearm into the top of that. That save, it doesn't say you can't do that, but that was a very savvy save. Just try to push your forearm down and just save that positioning. So, you know, pretty good balance there by Nicholas.
Bottom of your screen is Lone Star CrossFit. They have now completed their second Bob, and they'll have to handstand walk their way for it. Vancouver making their way now on the bottom of your screen. And Vancouver, Washington. They are the veteran team, being to every Adam Knight for their captain, being to every game's final push here for 1-2-1. Codigo CrossFit got in as well at 10:46. And CrossFit 1-2-1, Cheltenham, Australia. 10 seconds remaining in the time cap. So there's going to be 4 teams that get to take advantage of the entire 2 minutes plus of the reset and rest time, as time will expire. And it's CrossFit Kilo with an 8:38.15. There have only been 4 teams in 2 heats to complete this event, but Kilo holds the time to beat at 8:38.15 with 2 heats remaining. And now we get ready to reset.
So Kilo right off the bat, I think we saw the same thing yesterday in a very similar event. Is from start to finish, they really never had an overly aggressive pace. They never really seemed panic, always in the lead. That save you talked about on that handstand, almost missing a step, that was quite a save. A few good saves we've seen on the floor, but Kilo's back to front. And here's what I said at the end on the far right, as she has her hands on first one through, so knowing full well that the time stops on her chip count. That was a very smart move by CrossFit Kilo.
So now we're in the middle of the 2-minute reset. We'll go from handstand Bob on to the Bob sprint, and this will be event 8 of 9. Another 100 points on the line. And here you go. Just dig in, Chase, and go for it.
You know, these are my favorite events to watch and probably my least favorite events to do, because I'm a big strategy guy, and when it is just, hey, just go as hard as you can until it's over, that's not very fun, because you know the pain and anguish that's about to happen. And if you made the mistake of watching the mayhem of finishing from the previous heat, then you should have some nervous pit in the middle of your stomach about what's about to happen.
You're exactly right. The best part of this event is the 88-foot wobbly run, sled run once
Right,
you've done pushing it.
What we saw is it's not just pushing to the line and it's over. There is that short sprint across the field before the time stops.
32.72 the time to beat by PBM in heat number 1. As we go across the competition floor in lane 2, Superhero CrossFit is battling, it looks like, with CrossFit Athletic in lane 4. Well, that's lane number 2. Superhero CrossFit is out in front by about 3 feet. Superhero CrossFit, they'll have to complete the run. Lane 2, top of your screen now, running. Little bit wobbly, and in lane 4 is going to be CrossFit Athletic, but coming in at a time of 30.79, Superhero CrossFit.
Fastest time we saw relative to heat number 1. I think one of the fastest ones we saw, like you said, was at about 32 seconds.
The Superhero, the new time to beat, and Athletic got in at 32.22, so they have the second best time overall, as PBM's 32.72 will put them third overall. But here are the top 5 in the heat. Superhero 37.9, Athletic 32.22, so still you're looking at 30 to 35 second range, and we'll see someone. We got 2 heats left. Someone's going to break 30. 30 seconds, and that's how much it inflicts on you.
I don't mean to laugh, but I do know the feeling. And I think that's kind of what I said, is like I like watching these things. I think, you know, Pat Sherwood is kind of in the same camp, is that I just love watching the athletes suffer. You know, it's just, this is a good representation of how hard this stuff is, because I think it's often lost in the weeds that athletes make things that are impossibly hard look so easy. And so when you get to kind of see them be a little bit more human, it makes us all feel a little bit better.
I always like to explain the difference in the gym, and I'm sure you do too, as you tell people this is a very simple workout. Doesn't mean it's easy.
No.
Simple is not always easy, whether it's an event at the games or one of these tests of fitness or just your WOD back at the box. The simpler usually is the more devastating. We've got 2 heats down. We have 2 heat remaining here at the North Park Stadium at the 2018 Reebok CrossFit Games. We've completed 2 heats of team events 7 and 8. The handstand bob and the bob sprint. We have 2 remaining, starting off with heat 3. I'm Jeff Brightwell alongside Chase Ingram. Amanda Krenz is on the competition floor as we get set here for handstand bob as the athletes take the floor. And hope you practice your gymnastics. You definitely saw this at regionals. Here's what they have ahead of them.
200 points for grab of back-to-back events. We'll start with event number 7, 3 rounds for time. Cal rows and Cal bikes alternating each round between which pair will start. Mixed pair for round number 3. The handstand walk course and big bob push